Okay, hey guys. So in today's class, we're going to be looking at how to write a proposal. Okay, how to write a proposal. So this is for level C1 and also for level C2. Why is proposal language so useful? Hey Cassia, why is proposal language so useful? The language we use in proposals goes far beyond learning how to complete an exam task. It teaches you how to make, I've done something now. Hang on. Okay. It teaches you how to make sophisticated suggestions, justify your ideas, explain their potential benefits, and most importantly, persuade other people to take action. Hello, Cassia. Okay, so if you're working in English, this is going to be really useful. And obviously, if you're doing your exam, okay. But anybody who's not, hello, Andina. How's it going? You would like to read it? Yeah? Okay. Hey, Jade, I'm all right. Are you all right? So if you're working in English, probably this class would even be useful for native speakers, I think, because it's really sophisticated language. It's how to persuade people. We're going to see now some examples of in what areas this would be useful. Can't complain, that's brilliant. Okay? If it's Friday and you can't complain, it's brilliant. Hey, Mr. Foster. Okay, so Cambridge C1 Advanced and C2 Proficiency exams. If you are preparing a C1 or C2 exam, you may be asked to write a proposal. You therefore need to know how to make recommendations, justify them, very important, and persuade your target reader while maintaining an appropriate formal or semi-formal register. Okay, so these proposals are formal. Okay, so we need to make recommendations, but we also need to justify why. Why are we making those recommendations? And our objective is to persuade the person who is reading to follow our recommendations. Hey Sophia, that's awesome. What? You're in Italy, Cassia, yeah? Which part of Italy are you in? Andina, hey, you're so welcome. Oh, it's very hot, I think. My students in Italy have told me it's really, really hot. Oh, I have never been to Rimini, but I've heard that it's amazing. That's so cool. I have it on my phone for places to go. I want to go to Rimini. I heard it's amazing. Are you coming home or are you just arriving? If you're just arriving, I hope you have a brilliant time. Andina, as a Spanish, I love your pronunciation. Oh, that's cool, Andina. It's very hot. Yeah, last day. Okay. I hope you had a great holiday. So smooth. Thanks, Andina. Thank you. I tried to go for like a useful accent, you know. I think especially because many of my students are working in English, it's really good to have like a neutral accent, you know. To the right. Like this. Is that okay? How's that? Is it enough? Jade, I tend to favor rather florid language. Great, awesome, thanks Mr. Foster. Number 2, if you are working or presenting in English. So the first reason, if you're doing the Cambridge exam, you need to know how to write a proposal. The second reason is if you're working or presenting anything in English, okay? Proposal language is extremely useful if you work in English or regularly give presentations in English. Okay, super useful. You may need to propose a new project. This is always useful if you want to get a promotion at work, get a raise, get a bonus, put forward your idea. This language is so useful. If you want to or need to recommend changes to an existing system, if you want to present a new strategy, this one, if you want to suggest improvements, your boss might ask you, hey, Sophia, can you please suggest in the next meeting, can you do a 5-minute presentation about how we can, suggesting what improvements you think we can make? And then Sophia would say, oh my God, I need to prepare the presentation and then it needs to be in English, you know? I have a lot of students who'd say, Vikki, please help me with my presentation, listen to my presentation. How can I make my presentation sound more professional? Well, here you go. Persuade colleagues to support your idea, okay? Or recommend a particular course of action. So you can see here, this goes really above and beyond only preparing a C1 or C2 exam. Thank you. Thanks, Cassia. So instead of saying, right, very basic, I think we should change the system. This is very basic, right? You could say, there's a strong case for reviewing the current system. There's a strong case for reviewing the current system. This sounds considerably more professional and persuasive. A lot of people I know, when they have their yearly review at work, one of the comments their boss might make is, everything is okay, but you need to improve your professional English, okay? And this is a case. These people are in meetings. I think we should change. To sound more professional, you can say there is a strong case for reviewing the current system, okay? Now, number 3, the next reason why should we learn proposal language? It is fantastic for sales. Sales, marketing, and other persuasive situations. Okay, our minds can go crazy thinking about persuasive situations. There are many. Persuasion, I love this word also, it's really cool. Persuasion is one of the most valuable communication skills in professional English. It is particularly important in sales because you are convincing customers that a product or service meets their needs. So this is like, hello Amel, if you have this, I mean, it is just a very, very valuable skill, and it can be very lucrative also. Hey Jade, I'm preparing the C2 exam. It's got nothing to do with my line of work. Yeah, okay. So it can be one or the other, you know. Just fancied the challenge. Awesome, Jade. Yeah, that's awesome. What is your line of work, Jade, out of curiosity, if you don't mind sharing? I'm curious now, seeing as you mentioned it. Next one, marketing. So persuading a target audience to take action. Again, very lucrative. If you have this skill in any language, it's a very good skill to have. Because again, there's no point in having a product if you don't know how to sell your product. So language is it's really important. I think nowadays it's very difficult to escape sales or marketing. Management. So gaining support for a strategy or organizational change. I'm in admin assistant for my brother's painting and decorating business. Nice, okay. Well, you never know, Jade. You could definitely expand, eh? You could expand and start marketing and doing a bit of sales in English. Online could be cool. Okay, negotiations, right? Presenting proposals and convincing another party to accept them. My favorite words, entrepreneurship, right? So this is here, look, pitching. Oh dear, I've moved this thing. I hope that's right now. Pitching an idea. So have you guys heard of an elevator pitch when every word counts? You certainly can, Jade. Absolutely. You know. Hello, Dima. So pitching an idea, not pitching a tent, pitching an idea to investors or potential partners. And it could be an elevator pitch. It's a different thing. Then consulting. And you can notice all of these professions are usually very well paid. So again, in the world of professional English, formal language, all of these jobs, like, they do require you to speak well, and they're generally well paid. So it's definitely a skill that I think is worth investing time in. So recommending solutions to clients, okay, consulting. Next one, law. Constructing arguments and advocating a particular position. Recruitment, convincing an employer that you are the right candidate. But also, guys, I would add here in HR, you know, nowadays, for example, in tech, I don't know if anybody works in tech, it's really difficult to get people. Hey, Saska, it's really difficult to get people. I have some students who are human resource managers, and they need to speak in English, and it's really difficult. Hello, Alina. It's really difficult to convince people to come to work for a company. So persuasive language, again, would be really useful there. Leadership, of course. Persuading people to support and implement your ideas. So super useful. The fourth reason that we are studying proposal language, for meetings and decision making. Proposal language is extremely useful when participating in meetings, particularly when you want to influence a decision without sounding aggressive or overly direct. Now, you guys know what it's like when you're in a meeting with someone who just sounds too direct and they sound aggressive, and you definitely don't feel like agreeing with them, okay? So having this type of language gives us the ability to communicate effectively without making people defensive. Because, you know, when people become defensive, they're probably not going to agree with you. You might need to persuade your team to change an existing process. Recommend how a budget should be spent. Propose a solution to a recruiting problem. Convince management to hire additional staff. Argue for extending a deadline. Recommend investing in new technology. So all of these things we can use persuasive language, proposal language. So here we have an example. Instead of saying, we need another employee, okay, you could say, given the current workload, there is a strong case for recruiting an additional member of staff, right? So you give the problem first, and then you give the solution. Given the current workload, there is a strong case for recruiting an additional member of staff. So it's very skillful ways of using the language to get what you want. Number 5, asking for money, resources, or approval. I think you have all heard stories where you want something from your boss, but you either don't know how to ask, or you ask in the wrong way and they say no. So, hello Anna. Whenever you need somebody to approve an idea or provide resources, proposal language becomes particularly valuable. You might need to ask your employer for funding. Convince investors to finance a business idea. Imagine if you have a startup and you go, does anybody here have a startup? And you go to the bank and you want to get money from the bank. Well, you need to have the correct language. Request a larger department budget. Persuade a client to approve additional expenditure. Justify the purchase of new equipment, or obtain permission to introduce a new initiative. Dima, I'm watching Industry HBO production and there is a stuff like proposal language. Yeah? Really? That's awesome. Really cool. Okay. This is why, like, the series that you watch are really, it's more than, well, the accent is one thing if you want to improve your accent, right? you can get a, like, Peaky Blinders we mentioned yesterday, or Derry Girls, or what is it? The Way to Heaven from Belfast. No, you guys told me it's really good for accent. But Dima is correct. Also, topics. If you want persuasive proposal language, you can watch like a series about lawyers, for example, and you can get really great language. Or you could, like this one, Industry on HBO, and you expose yourself to this type of language again and again. It's a really, really good, that's a really good trick actually. That's a really good tip. I should write that down somewhere for when people ask me. You know, if you're working in an office, watch series about offices. Okay, rather than simply asking for something, you can establish the need, right? So you say what the problem is. You establish first the need, given the current workload, okay? Recommend a solution and demonstrate the potential benefit. Dima, yes, like Industry. How to get away with a murder. Oh my goodness, Succession, etc. Wow, how do you get away with murder? Yeah, nice one, okay. While this would involve some initial expenditure, so this is the need, the investment is likely to result in substantial savings in the long term. This is the potential benefit of the investment, okay? Number 6, solving problems professionally. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever had a relationship, like a romantic relationship, with a person who doesn't speak the same first language as you. So sometimes it's really difficult if you're having an argument or a disagreement with that person. It's very difficult because your language becomes very basic, you know? And the more basic the language becomes, the more angry, or the angrier people tend to get. So when you're able to speak professionally, you can really negotiate and communicate much better, you know. Proposal language is also useful when you identify a problem and want to do more than simply complain about it. So again, this is just like being professional and not being mediocre, you know. Instead of saying the current system doesn't work. So this is just a complaint. My goodness. This is just a complaint, okay? And I would say, so it's not helpful and therefore not professional. Oh, I saw a really interesting thing today, guys. It's a little bit crazy, but I'm going to show you. Look. Have you seen this one? I thought it was really good. It says, never argue with a pig. You both get dirty, but the pig enjoys it. I thought it was so good. And it's kind of like this, you know, when people just contribute to the problem and say the current system doesn't work. Okay, well, good job, Einstein. What solution do you have for this? You know? You say, Dima, niche ideas, part 1. Get with person whose native language isn't the same as yours. Yeah. This is the top way to learn the language. Dima, you're shocked. Saska's laughing, Anna. True. I thought it was really good, guys. I thought it was really good, you know, but it's the same with language. If you're hanging around with people who don't speak well, in the end, you're not going to speak well either. Whereas if you hang around and listen to people who speak very well, speak professionally, communicate well, use professional language, in the end, this rubs off on you. I would like to make a TikTok for you guys with to rub off on. To rub off on, for any of you geniuses there, it means like it's an informal way to say it influences you. You could say one of the main shortcomings of the current system is its lack of flexibility. Thank you, Mr. Foster. Yeah, to rub off on. That's it. Consideration should therefore be given to introducing a more adaptable approach. Okay, hello Irina. This is particularly valuable in management, consulting, project management, and general workplace problem solving. The fundamental skill behind all of these situations is the same, right? You identify the problem. Instead, we don't complain about the problem like a baby, okay? We identify the problem, then we make a recommendation, we justify why we think this is a good recommendation, with benefit of this recommendation, and this is persuasion. Okay, so this is the structure that we follow when we're writing or doing any type of persuasion. Okay, so what is a proposal? A proposal is a formal or semi-formal piece of writing in which you describe a situation, need, or problem. So you need to speak about what is the problem. In an exam, they give it to you, or at work, your boss might tell you what the problem is. Then you put forward, there's a nice phrasal verb, then you put forward suggestions or recommendations. Then you explain why those suggestions would be effective. Then you persuade the target reader to take a particular course of action. Cassia, in corporate language, there are no problems, but only the challenges. Yes, Cassia, exactly. Nice expression. I've eavesdropped it on some American debates recently. Yeah? Okay. The key word is persuade. A report often focuses primarily on analysing and evaluating a current or past situation. A proposal is much more future oriented. Okay, they mention report here because in Cambridge, B2, C1 and C2, you have sometimes the option of writing a report. They're focused on analysing a current or past situation, but a proposal is focused on the future. That's the main difference there between, and that's why in C1 and C2, you have both options. Report is dealing with the past or something that's happening now, whereas the proposal is for the future. So report, what is happening, what have we found? Proposal, what should we do about it? You are not merely giving your opinion. You are making a persuasive case for action based on relevant information. So a weak version could be, I think the college should organise more activities. I mean, this would be for guys who are maybe like B1. It's very informal. Okay, it's very basic language, which is fine. It's just very basic language. C1 would be, given the relatively limited range of extracurricular activities currently available. So this is the problem here. I would strongly recommend introducing a wider variety of events aimed at different age groups and interests. There's your recommendation. The second version identifies the problem, recommends action, and gives a justification. Okay, so we have the recommendation, and then we say it's aimed at different age groups, which is your justification. Okay, and obviously you can see the second sentence is much longer. It's 4 times longer. Saskia, you prefer B1, I know. Yeah. Okay. Point number 2, we need to understand the task before writing it. Before writing anything, identify 4 things. Who is the target reader? Hello, Diana Puati. Diana would like to call and speak with us. Diana, we're not taking calls at the moment, but we will take calls in the end. But Diana, if you want to participate in the speaking, you need to participate in the chat during the live, just so we know who you are, okay? Before writing anything, identify 4 things. Who is the target reader? 2, why are you writing? 3, what content points must you cover? And 4, what action are you trying to persuade the reader to take? For example, this is an example question, okay? Your college wants to run a special event to provide advice and information about career and further education opportunities for students. The principal has asked students for proposals for the event, outlining what should be included, suggesting how it should be organised, and giving reasons for their recommendations. This down here so we can see it more clearly. Yeah. So you must cover what should be included, how the event should be organised, and reasons for your recommendations. Write beautifully about careers, but fail to explain how the event should be organised, you have not fully completed the task. Okay, this is why planning matters. I guess you guys are all professionals, but you should never really start writing something in detail without making a plan first. You know, you should make a plan really about what you're going to write and your objectives. Hello, Carlos. Blueprint and dossier are synonyms to those guys. To make a blueprint, make a dossier. Okay, number 3, register. Yeah, register means how formal should it be. The register depends on the target reader. I mean, yeah, normally if it's in your C1 exam, C2, it's going to be something formal. If you are writing to the principal, local council, management, then it's formal. Normally it's one of those. If you're writing to members of your club, fellow students, then formal or semi-formal. However, even when the target reader is someone you know, a proposal should remain organised, purposeful, and persuasive. Avoid excessively conversational language. I have some examples here, right? Like, look, I reckon this would be really cool. No. This word, reckon, it's so nice for your speaking exam. It's really good language for B2 or C1. It's like a synonym for I think, I feel. It's perfectly fine in informal language, but you cannot use this in formal or even semi-formal writing. Loads of students would probably love it. No. Okay, maybe we could do something about this. So these are way too informal for a proposal. Okay, we would prefer this would be likely to appeal to a considerable number of students instead of loads of students. There is a strong case for introducing. It would be advisable to, and one possible course of action would be to. Okay, so I think you can pretty clearly see the difference here between these sentences and these informal ones up here. These are wonderful, they're super if you're speaking or writing very informally. Okay, and for your oral exam or for chatting with your colleagues at work, you know, those water cooler moments or whatever. But for writing to your boss or giving a presentation, it's a big no-no. Okay, even if your company is informal, if you want a promotion, you know, they do appreciate formal language. In the majority of the companies that I know, any of the big companies or international companies, at least they want you to be able to speak formally. Cassia, could you write, there is a strong necessity for introducing? Yeah, you could. There is a strong necessity for introducing. Yeah, strong. Number 4, give your proposal a title. Yeah, so the proposal must have title and subtitles. Okay, subheadings. I didn't put title or title, main heading. A proposal normally has a clear, informative title. Strong, yeah. For example, proposal for improving college facilities. And it doesn't have to be creative. It's not like the review where you get extra marks for having a creative title. In the proposal or the report, there are no extra marks for having a creative title. Okay? But you have to remember to write the title. If you don't write a title, you're going to lose a lot of marks. But the title doesn't have to be interesting or spectacular, okay? It just has to be clear and informative, to the point. For example, proposal on improving college facilities, or proposal for the end of year program, proposal for increasing membership of the English language club. Yeah, so avoid creative newspaper style headlines. The purpose of the title is clarity, okay? Or magazine style, no. avoid those, right? It is not necessary. So it's not like the article or review. Okay. Anuska, could you move a little bit your screen on left? Yes. Sharon? Oh, sorry. No. Is that okay? Thank you, Sharon. Okay. So, number 5, the introduction should... Yeah, awesome. Cool. Thanks for telling me. Introduction. The introduction should establish the purpose immediately. So this is so easy. Like, one of the great things about doing a proposal is the introduction is always the same. It should be something very clear, very to the point, telling everybody what you are doing. Useful structures, I use the same one all the time. The purpose of this proposal is, and then you say, what is the purpose? One sentence. Or this proposal, oh dear. There you go. This proposal aims to, and one sentence. The following proposal outlines, and that's all. But pick one of these and just use this for your proposal. This proposal sets out a number of recommendations for XYZ. The aim of this proposal is to assess the current situation and recommend XYZ. Okay, so if you're doing your exam, I would pick one and always use this in all of your preparation proposals that you do before your exam. And if you're doing a proposal at work, just pick one and use that, but make it very clear from the very beginning what you are doing there. Okay, that's very important for being professional. For example, the purpose of this proposal is to assess the facilities currently available to students and put forward a number of recommendations aimed at improving them. Finished. That's your introduction. Okay, really basic, really simple, really easy, really to the point, really clear, and everybody knows what the hell is going on. Okay, notice the efficiency. The reader immediately knows why the document exists or why you are speaking. Okay. Number 6, use headings. Well, headings, and we need subheadings. So always when you do a report or a proposal in this case, every paragraph needs to have a heading or subheading. Headings are particularly appropriate in proposals because they make the document easy to navigate, especially if you're doing an oral one. So you have your proposal here and you're speaking, and everybody can find exactly what you're speaking about. If they're listening to you and then they look at the paper that you gave them, maybe it could be too difficult to find where you are. And this is why you this is why you have the titles or subtitles, subheadings. For example, this is an example of but they can be really, really simple. Look, first one is, well, you have your heading, your title, and then subtitle, introduction. It's really easy. Introduction. The aim of this report is to XYZ. Next one is current situation. Super easy. Next one, proposed improvements. Easy. So if I'm speaking about the proposed improvements and then Jorge looks at the document that I gave, now she's speaking about this. Okay, because I've written the subheading. So it's very easy to navigate the document that I gave everybody at the meeting. Organization of the event, expected benefits, and conclusion. Conclusion and or recommendations. So it's easy, introduction, current situation, proposed improvements, organization of the event, expected benefits, conclusion. That's all. Okay, there's no mystery there, but you must have them. The headings should reflect the actual task. Don't memorize the same headings and force them into every proposal. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can't copy exactly what I wrote here. It needs to be the correct title for the specific proposal that you are doing. If the question asks you to discuss existing facilities and ways of improving them, those phrases can guide your headings. Yeah, so you basically get the titles from the question that they give you or from whatever your boss asks you to do. Okay, current facilities, recommended improvements. Like it's literally up here. Look, where was it? Where is my question? Let me see. Well, yeah, you can basically find it. We'll look at, I've got loads of examples now down here. Yeah, so you can just get it from the question. Number 7, you need to establish the current situation. So what is the situation now? This is one of the first steps. Before recommending change, it is often useful to explain why change is necessary. It's really, really good for marketing, for sales, for whatever. The first thing is to address the problem that they have, no? So that they're aware of what the problem is. Useful language. At present, there is a noticeable lack of. So you're telling them there is a problem, I've got a solution for you. Currently, relatively little provision is made for. One of the main shortcomings of the existing system is, okay? Although the current facilities are adequate, in some respects, feedback from students suggests that there appears to be considerable scope for improvement. This gives your recommendations a logical foundation so that they know, okay, she's giving these ideas and these suggestions because she has told us what the problem is. And she's not just speaking because she wants this for no good reason. A weak version would be, we should build a bigger study area. Yeah, but why? Why? Okay. Better would be, given the shortage of quiet study space currently available, extending the library would address one of the most frequently cited concerns among students. Hello, Jacob. A lot of the stuff I do, Jacob, is also for C2. Most of my students are B2 plus and C1. So I tend to cater for that range specifically. But a lot of the stuff that I do here is C2. Yeah. You're speaking specifically about the exams. C2 is kind of a niche area. Okay, thanks. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Now the recommendation has a reason. Okay. And then after you've given the current problems, now you're going to give your recommendations. A C1 candidate should demonstrate range rather than repeatedly writing, I think we should. Use, I would strongly recommend. One suggestion would be to. It would be advisable to. Consideration should be given. Jacob, like this one would do you for C2. Okay? Or this one. A particularly effective measure would. Jacob, that would be C2. For example. Okay? This would, yeah. Jacob, this one, for example, priority should be given to. This would be C1 or C2. Okay, so it depends on the expression. There's a lot of C2 stuff in here. It would be worth considering. There is a strong case for. The college would benefit from. Perhaps the most effective approach would be to. Yeah, so notice the difference in strength. It might be possible to is quite tentative. It would be possible to is reasonably strong. Okay, so a good C1 student and C2 for sure, you're going to be able to play with the differences there. Your persuasion could be tentative or reasonably strong or strong. I would strongly recommend. It is essential that is, yeah, very strong. Choose the strength according to what you are recommending. Okay, so this is something like that B2 students they're not expected to know how to do. C1 students are expected to start thinking about this, and a C2 student would be mastering that, okay, the strength of the language that they're using. Making recommendations at level C1. you can say, I would strongly recommend. Now, I wrote an example for all of these because I think there's nothing worse than just your teacher giving you like the start of the sentence and you saying, oh, how can I finish this sentence? So I would strongly recommend extending the library's opening hours during the examination period. And after, you can see here, after strongly recommend, your next verb needs to be with ing. I mean, those things you need to know. That's why you need to prepare in advance and know which phrases you're going to include, because you need to also be sure of the grammar, right? Number 2, one suggestion would be to. So one suggestion would be to introduce a weekly program of extracurricular activities aimed at both local and international students. Number 3, it would be advisable to. It would be advisable to consult students before deciding how the available funding should be allocated. So would be advisable, and you can see here, after would be advisable, it's going to be to with infinitive. So you really do, like, before you go to your exam, you probably need to write 10 or 15 proposals, get them corrected. Hello, Zazu. Get them corrected and then kind of memorize them, because you need to know, like, if you're going to use it would be advisable, you need to know that after that you have to put to plus infinitive. Advisable is less strong, or yeah, I mean, it's less strong than I would strongly recommend. Yes, I would strongly recommend is very strong, and it would be advisable is less strong. Absolutely, Zazu, it's weaker, yeah. Number 4, consideration should be given to. For example, consideration should be given to creating additional quiet study areas throughout the college. Okay, this is a hard one because look, given to, and then you have gerund. Okay, so this would be C1, C2 there for Jacob. All right, because the levels are quite close. I mean, if you can pass your C1 exam being closer to level B2, or you can pass your C1 exam being closer to level C2, you know. Number 5, a particularly effective measure would be to. For example, a particularly effective measure would be to invite representatives from local companies to provide students with first-hand career advice. Really nice adjective here, first-hand career advice. Love that. Okay, it's a really nice adjective. Number 6, priority should be given to. For example, priority should be given to improving the dining facilities, as overcrowding is currently a significant problem at lunchtime. Really nice use of the word overcrowding there. It would be worth considering. For example, it would be worth considering extending the range of activities available to students at weekends. Number 8, there is a strong case for. For example, there is a strong case for investing in additional language learning technology, particularly in classrooms used for speaking and listening practice. So really nice one here, look. A strong case for, and then we need to put ing. Okay. Number 9, the college would benefit from. Thank you. Sweet guys. Biloglav, Cassia, thanks. Number 10, perhaps the most effective approach would be to. For example, perhaps the most effective approach would be to conduct a student survey before making any substantial changes to the existing facilities. Okay? Different levels of strength. It might be possible to. So this is tentative. This is weak. Okay, this is tentative. It might be possible to. For example, it might be possible to use some of the existing classrooms as temporary study areas during particularly busy periods. My goodness. It would be advisable to, so this is reasonably strong, Zazu, okay? Reasonably strong. For example, it would be advisable to increase the number of healthy and affordable options available in the college canteen. And then number 13, this is strong. I would strongly recommend, for example, I would strongly recommend allocating a substantial proportion of the available budget to upgrading the existing language laboratory. And then very strong, it is essential that, for example, it is essential that any new facilities be accessible to students with disabilities. Okay, cool. So you have a lot to play with there. My suggestion is like, try to do it. Try to create a proposal and then try to say it and see how you feel. And imagine yourself persuading someone to do something. Also, what's really helpful, guys, another tip, I should really write down these tips like in some type of document so then I can prepare a video just with the tips. But if you don't have anyone to practice this language with in English, you can practice at home, like with your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, in your own language, you know, and then you can get used to using it, you know. Tentative. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could use a synonym saying hypothetical. Yeah, that could also be a synonym. This is one of the most important features of a successful proposal. Don't simply produce a shopping list of ideas. A lot of people do this. I recommend this, and this, but they don't explain why or what's the problem that's addressing. Dima, is it like sentences, like subject de atributo en español? Como la cosa es que... Sorry, I don't know the name of those sentences in English. Is it? You see, in English we don't have a lot of those terms. I'm not sure. Sujeto de atributo en español, I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not sure. Zazu, I highly recommend him for this position. I strongly recommend him for this position. Which one is stronger? I highly recommend him. I highly recommend him for this position. I would strongly recommend him. I would say I would strongly recommend. Because if you say I highly recommend him, it's like it's my personal feeling about him. I think he would do a really good job. And I would strongly recommend him is in general more objective. So I think I highly recommend him is subjective and I would strongly recommend him is objective. Sorry about that, Dima. I can check, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. You've caught there with atributo. So recommendation, the college should invite representatives from local companies. The college should invite representatives from local companies. This would enable students to obtain first-hand information about potential career paths and further development. It could also provide opportunities for work placement or internships, thereby making the event considerably more practical. So here you've got your recommendation, your reason, and the expected result. Okay, so this is what we're looking for. This is what they tell you about development. So in the evaluation structure, you have the bands for the exam. They expect C1 students to develop their arguments. And this is how you do it. Your recommendation, your reason, and your expected result. Okay, that is excellent proposal development. So, useful language. The main advantage of this would be, this would enable students to. By doing so, the college could. This would have the added benefit of, not only would this, but it would also, this is likely to result in. And this would go some way towards addressing whatever problem it is, okay? Then giving reasons and explaining benefits. So I'm not going to read this one up here, I'll just go directly to my example. The main advantage of this would be that students could obtain practical career advice directly from professionals working in their chosen fields. Number 2, this would enable students to make better informed decisions about their future education and career paths. By doing so, the college could cater more effectively for students with a wider range of interests and needs. Number 4, this would have the added benefit of encouraging students from different backgrounds to interact with one another. Number 5, not only would this alleviate overcrowding in the existing dining area, but it would also provide students with a more pleasant environment in which to socialize. Number 6, this is likely to result in higher attendance and greater student participation in extracurricular activities. And number 7, this would go some way towards addressing the shortage of quiet study spaces currently available on campus. Okay, there's a lot of stuff there, and I will publish this video today. So I have a few students now preparing for the C1 exam. So I think you guys, if you want, you can go through it, or anytime you need to do a proposal, you can just go to YT and watch the video and steal the language that is useful for you. Okay, point number 10, use persuasive language, but don't become emotional, okay? So you need to have some like poker face. Articles, if you write an article, if you write a letter to your friend, if you write a review, these are quite emotional writings. But when you deliver a proposal, it is not emotional, and there is really no space for emotional language either, okay? Dima, pretend you are, but you are not. Pretend you are. Pretend you are, but you are not. Pretend you're not, but you are. No? Is it? So a proposal, but this doesn't mean writing an advertisement. So avoid. This would be absolutely amazing! Exclamation point. No. This would be for a review, for example, a review, informal letter, article, okay? But not a proposal, okay? Everyone would love this. No, this is not. Sorry, just I didn't think of it. Okay, Dima, yeah, okay. So yeah, because if you're delivering, I do mean if you're giving a proposal, you're going to feel nervous, and then you need to pretend that you're not. Is that what you mean? Many of my students, they say like, oh God, Vikki, I'm so nervous. But they don't look nervous at all. You know, they don't really, they don't look nervous at all. So it's interesting. Instead, sound measured and credible. It's a bit sad, but yeah, sometimes the more serious you are, the more seriously people take you. Measured, not getting too emotional, not getting too angry, not getting too excited. It's like you are measuring your emotions. So there is little doubt that this initiative would prove beneficial. I mean, this would definitely be C1 plus and more like C2, okay? This is likely to appeal particularly to younger members. Credible is believable. It's a Latin word. It comes from the Latin word creer in Spanish. So it comes from Latin, to believe. So credible is believable. You're welcome. The potential benefits would considerably outweigh the additional cost involved. It's very good language. Such a measure would provide a practical and relatively inexpensive solution. So, yeah, this is true. Good persuasion often sounds objective. When I was doing my degree at university, one of the first classes that we had was learning the difference between being objective and being subjective. And I remember for me, it was so hard. It was so hard. I was like, Catherine, I forget her surname. She was the criminal law lecturer, and she was explaining this to us, the difference between objectivity and subjectivity, and oof, was very hard. But yeah, good persuasion often sounds objective. Law. Do you agree with George Sand? Okay. Number 11, right? Using hypothetical language. This is what Mr. Foster was talking about. George Sand, con is a thought too. Tongama, Gurmahagut. So you are frequently discussing actions that have not happened yet. So conditionals and modal verbs are extremely useful. So for grammar, guys, when you're preparing your proposal, remember please that conditionals and modals are really good here. Okay? Thank you. I don't know who this is from, but that's awesome. Thanks. Zazu. First time heard the pronunciation of often with T inside. Ah, okay, Zazu. That's so sweet. Do you normally say often? Yeah, I always put the T in often. It's funny. Maybe sometimes I say often, I don't know. I think somebody mentioned this recently, I think. But yeah, that's how I say it. Often. Okay. Could be personal choice. People have mentioned it to me before, but I don't see a problem with it, and I have never had a problem with saying often, so. We learn it without T. Yeah? Dazu, where are you from? Which country? As a matter of interest, curiosity. I think a lot of people learn it without the T. If we check the Cambridge Dictionary and maybe Georgia, yeah? Zazu? We haven't met before, have we? Have we met before, Zazu? Because I know someone called Zazu from Georgia. That would be so crazy if it was you. No, I don't think, because he doesn't speak very good English. He didn't when I met him anyway. No, first time, yeah? That's so crazy. I don't know a lot of people from Georgia, but one of the people I knew is Zazu. I was in Madrid doing training, and I was in Retiro Park, and I was listening to a guy playing the violin, and this guy stood next to me, and we were both watching, and so we started speaking with each other. And it turns out this guy was traveling around Europe. He was from Georgia. His name was Zazu. And we sat down on the bench, and he had like his lunch with him, and he shared his lunch with me. He had a bottle of whiskey. He gave me, and he gave me like some bread as well. It was so cool. Such a nice guy. I think it was the first time I had ever spoken to someone from Georgia. So if these measures were implemented, students would have access to. Hello, Imbrende. Were the college to introduce such a scheme, it could, ... Should sufficient funding be available, priority could be given to. So you're telling them like what could happen as a result of them following through with your recommendations. Introducing additional study areas would allow. Okay, so here you have your modal, could, and would. Okay? Now, hypothetical language for proposals. If these measures were, I'm just going to read directly my example to save a little bit of time. If these measures were implemented, students would have access to a considerably wider range of academic and recreational facilities. You're glad I had a positive experience? Yeah, it was really positive. I could tell you more about the story as well, but it was so nice. It was so lovely. It was funny. I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you guys, but we were standing there watching this violinist. The song is, you know, the really famous Mafia song from Sicily. I love that song. And Zazu was standing next to me, and I looked at him and I thought, gosh, he seems like such an interesting person. I thought something said I would love to speak with him. And then he started walking away, and I thought, okay, he's gone. But then he came back and he was like, hello. He's like, hello. And it was so nice. It was really, so I guess we both felt like we wanted to speak to each other. Okay, number 2. Were the college to introduce such a scheme, it could significantly increase participation in extracurricular activities. So there you have your modal verb there. Next example, should sufficient funding be available, comma, priority could be given to upgrading the language laboratory and replacing its outdated equipment. Okay, could be given. Example number 4. Introducing additional study areas would allow students to work independently without having to rely exclusively on the overcrowded library. Now for Jacob, this would be level C2. Okay, so we have your modal, obviously with your infinitive after you have your preposition followed by the gerund. Okay, and look at this, guys. Normally, like for a good B2 student or C1 student, you would use rely on, but look how we've used it here, to rely exclusively on. You're welcome, Jacob, it's awesome. To rely exclusively on the overcrowded library while throwing in your adjective there. So it's a real mouthful, you know, plus you're beginning the sentence with the gerund also. Introducing additional study areas would allow students to work independently, adverb, without having preposition plus gerund, rely exclusively on, not just rely on, and then you have the adjective overcrowded before library. It's really, really like, yeah, you would blow them out of the water with a sentence like that. Hello, Buzas, Frente. Okay, so next one, at C1, inverted conditionals can be particularly effective when used naturally. Hello, E.g. Should the proposal be approved, the new facilities could be introduced before the beginning of the next academic year. So guys, remember starting the sentence with should, and then you have your subject followed by the verb to be by the infinitive. This is an inversion. We have videos on that on YT if you want to check those out. Okay, there are plenty of videos explaining at length inversions if you want to review those if you haven't seen those lives. Were these recommendations to be implemented, comma, the benefits would be felt by students across the college. Again, this would be C1 plus C2. You know, to say something like the benefits would be felt by, this is very advanced language. Do not overuse them, right? One sophisticated structure used accurately is more impressive than several forced ones. This is very true. One inversion per writing, maximum 2 is perfect. More than that, it's overkill. And you're relying too much on inversions when there is other language that you should be showing off. Okay, and the last point then is cohesion. Cohesion, this is very important for C1 and C2, okay? That all of your ideas fit together. So if I go back to what I mentioned at the beginning about planning, when I mentioned to students, plan your essay or plan your writing, it's like banging my head against the wall, you know? People just want to start writing. But in order for your writing to be cohesive, you really do need to make a plan and think about what you're going to say before you start writing. So your ideas need to connect logically, right? They need to be easy to read. I also recommend in the question that they give you or in the description that your boss gives you, like go in the order that he gave you. Don't try to mix things around and put the third point at the beginning and the second point at the end, because then the examiner or the people listening to you, they need to work really hard to follow what you're saying, and that just results in confusion and less marks. Okay, so try to think of a logical, cohesive order and then follow that. Because the easier it is to read, the easier it is for them to give you marks, or to agree with your proposal if you're using it at work. Your ideas need to connect logically. For adding recommendations, right? And I have down here, adding recommendations. Yes, in addition, I've put them down here, look. So, in addition, the college could extend the library's opening hours during particularly busy periods. Furthermore, providing additional computers would enable more students to access online learning resources. Number 3, another measure worth considering is the introduction of a mentoring program for international students. Now, expressing consequences. Number 4, the new facilities would accommodate considerably more students. As a result, very important, overcrowding during peak hours would be substantially reduced. Consequently, students would have greater access to quiet study spaces. Consequently, they would be less reliant on the main library. Look here, reliant on, C1, C2, instead of using rely on. A B2 student, for example, they're never in a million years going to use reliant on. So you automatically, if you use reliant on correctly in your writing, you're really distinguishing yourself from a person with level B2. This in turn would. The proposed activities would encourage greater interaction between local and international students. This, in turn, would help newcomers integrate more successfully into college life. So it's, again, nice phrasal verb here, integrate into. By doing so, love this. This is probably C2. By doing so. The college could invite representatives from a wider range of industries. By doing so, it would provide students with a more comprehensive overview of potential career paths. Okay? Consequently means as a consequence. Consequences are like results in this context. Now, for introducing contrast, right? Nevertheless, extending the dining area would require considerable investment. Nevertheless, the long-term benefits are likely to outweigh the initial expense. While this would involve some initial expenditure, the improved facilities would benefit students for many years to come. 10. Despite the additional cost, extending the library's opening hours would be particularly beneficial during examination. Why do I read the comma? I suppose at one point, I'm thinking if anybody is driving their car to work and they want to listen to this, to review, they can hear the comma. But also, I think when you're studying at this level and you're reading, I think it's good to read the comma. Because then when you're writing, my students tend to remember when they need to put the comma. So I think it's helpful. That's why I read it. Okay, now how to prioritize your recommendations. More importantly, so example, additional social events would make the college more welcoming. Hello, Cassandra. More importantly, they could help international students establish friendships and feel part of the wider community. 12. Of particular importance is the need to ensure, we were studying ensure yesterday. I made a TikTok about this yesterday, right? Ensure versus assure. Of particular importance is the need to ensure that proposed facilities are accessible to students with disabilities. And number 13, priority should therefore be given to, for example, the existing language laboratory is both outdated and heavily used. Priority should therefore be given to replacing its equipment before investing in less essential facilities. Okay, really nice. Now, on to point number 13 is the conclusion. The conclusion should not suddenly introduce an entirely new proposal. This is something I see maybe not every day, but at least every week, when people don't plan and can't control themselves. Hey Cole, what's up? Yeah, busy day. Why does it look like I had a busy day? Did you have a busy day? Guys, if you're doing your exam, or in fact, if you're, when you're speaking to someone and you want to persuade them, you're telling a story, and I'm guilty of this myself when I'm speaking, because when I'm speaking, things occur to me, I get new ideas, but sometimes, the brainstorming phase must finish. So the conclusion of anything at all, is not the moment to introduce a new idea. Like, you are really shooting yourself in the foot, okay? You will lose a lot of marks if you start speaking about, maybe it's a great idea. You're doing your writing. I think of a really brilliant idea. No, you do the brainstorming before you start writing. You write down all of your ideas. When you start writing, you cannot introduce any more new ideas. So sorry. You will ruin the cohesiveness of your proposal, and it's going to be totally confusing for the reader, and it's wrong. Okay? Sorry to be very direct, but people make a lot of mistakes with this. In your conclusion, you can only speak about things that you spoke about in the main body of your writing, in the previous paragraphs that you wrote. There can be absolutely nothing new. Okay? That is a really strong rule. And again, I'm banging my head against the wall because I repeat myself like this non-stop, and yet I correct many essays every week. And what is this? I'm reading the conclusion as a totally different, the conclusion doesn't match the main body of the proposal at all. And my student, but it was a really good idea. And you need to control yourself, no new ideas. Once you start writing, there are no new ideas, okay? So just please remember that, okay? It's very important. The conclusion should not suddenly introduce an entirely new proposal. Instead, summarize your overall recommendation and emphasize the expected benefits. So, some useful structures could be, my goodness, today the screen is moving around a lot, isn't it? Cole, I had a busy day. How has class been today? Almost finished? I've been sleeping. You've been sleeping? Did you take a siesta? You're not Spanish, Cole. Useful structures. Now, guys, this is beautiful language. Jacob, if you're listening, you can make a note of this. Look. In light of the above. Oh my God, this is just now really incredible. Okay. In light of the above. It's awesome. So awesome. In light of the above, I would recommend. If these recommendations were implemented, a bit easier. This one is a really good one as well, standard for CE1. Taking all these factors into consideration. Taking all these factors into consideration. Yeah, but what does it mean? So obviously, Jacob, the above is the points that you mentioned previously in the previous paragraphs, when we say in light of, if you can imagine that you are in the dark, okay? And so if you're in the dark, you can't see anything. And then you mention three of the things. It's like you are putting a spotlight on those things. So you bring these points into light. You bring them into people's awareness so people can see them. Okay? So that's what it means in light. The things that we can see, the things that I have just spoken about. Do you understand, Cole? Cole, do you understand, Jacob? I'm going to get Cole's comment. That is how I would describe in light of the above. Okay, it's a really, really nice. Jacob, I hope you understand that. Okay, cool, awesome. On balance, the proposed measures would. Yeah, Jacob, you could use that one as well, and like C2 plus on balance as well. Okay, so on balance, maybe it's not obvious, but if you're weighing things up, no, you have the positives, the negatives, the advantages, the disadvantages. Disadvantages, the money it's going to cost, and these are the advantages, no? And on balance is when you put them on the balance, and you can see, okay, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. So on balance, like when we weigh them up, on balance, the proposed measures would. Zazu, to sum up, in conclusion, can they be considered C1? No. For me, they're not. For me, it's a waste, Zazu. It's a waste to say to sum up or in conclusion for C1 because you're missing an opportunity to use something like this, where you can get more points, because this language, to sum up and in conclusion, is used in B1 and B2. So, and because you memorize this, hello Leon, because you memorize these connectors, so if you're going into an exam, a C1 exam or a C2 exam, and you think, okay, maybe I would like to do the proposal because it's an option. It's not compulsory, it's an option. One of the options I recommend preparing, actually. I like the proposal. I always prepare my students to do the proposal. You're going to memorize. It's only one. You're going to use it for whatever proposal comes up. You're going to use it. So I would memorize one that is level C1 or level C2, and I would use that. Okay? So that's why. Because to sum up and in conclusion, they're just very, very easy. A student with one can say in conclusion to sum up. Obviously, if you're doing Zazu, if you are doing a presentation and you know that your colleagues have a low level of English, for example, then it could be stupid to use language like this, because your objective, if you're giving a proposal to your international colleagues and you know that some of them don't speak English very well, then obviously it's better to use to sum up or in conclusion. On the other hand, if you're working in an international company and your boss is from America or Sweden or Malta and they speak excellent English, then I would recommend throwing in light of the above or on balance, because they're going to feel like, okay, this guy can manage this professional environment, So it depends a bit on the situation as well. I mean, I hate when people use really advanced language in front of people who clearly don't understand. That means defeating the purpose, Okay, for example, in light of the above, I would strongly recommend implementing with ing, okay, implementing the proposed changes. Although some initial investment would be required, the long-term benefits to students would considerably outweigh the costs. Short, persuasive, and decisive. Implementing, using. Yeah, taking into consideration. Yeah, using, exactly, implementing. Good job, Cole. Yeah. Cole, live tomorrow, Miss Hayes. I hope so, but tomorrow I am going to yoga class in the morning and I will be leaving home really, really early in the morning because I need to drive really far to get to my yoga class. And on the way home, I plan on doing a little road trip. So I do not know what time I'm going to be home. The weather, I think, is not the best tomorrow. Let me see. The weather is not great, eh? I don't know. I went to the beach yesterday. It was pretty windy. But if I can go to the beach tomorrow, I will. So like, who knows when I will come back from the beach. But I would try. I want to do a live. I have prepared a lot of material, so I would like to. Don't tire yourself out. Maybe do a live on Sunday or Monday. For sure I'll do one tomorrow or Sunday. I think I will. But we'll see. I have some other things to do, guys, because, you know, the academic year is starting in September. And I need to contact my students this weekend. I need to tell everybody about the schedule for September, confirm classes, which is going to take me quite a long time. And people get very stressed, you know, because everybody would like to have their class at a particular time. And obviously, I'm only one person, so I can't give everybody class at the same time. So this weekend, I also need to sit down and do that at some point. I have reposted. Thanks, Cole. Mr. Foster, one should really love yoga to drive so far to do it. Yeah, I do. You know, I love yoga. Yoga is my number one non-negotiable. So it is. Absolutely. Okay, where was I here? Number 2. If these recommendations were implemented or were to be implemented, students would benefit from a more comfortable, accessible, and stimulating learning environment. Number 3, taking all these factors into consideration, expanding the existing facilities would appear to be the most practical and cost-effective course of action. I love this. Course of action. Vikki, which course of action do you recommend? Which course of action are you planning on taking? Cole, I'm just getting back into my routine of being here, so just checking when next classes are. Okay, cool. K-Town, I am new and want to learn English. Awesome, K-Town, you're welcome. Cole, you can be in our WhatsApp group if you want. Are you in the WhatsApp group? I'm not sure. I'm still, guys, if anybody wants to be in the WhatsApp group, you can be in the WhatsApp group. I haven't mentioned it in a while. But we have a WhatsApp group and I literally just post the link whenever we're going live. Okay, number 4, on balance, the proposed measures would significantly improve the student experience without placing an unreasonable financial burden on the college, okay? A financial burden. And yeah, again, we have, guys, without with ing. Always remember that one. Oh my gosh. Okay, cool. So point number 14, a strong structure to remember. A reliable proposal is, right? You need your title, okay? Then the next title is going to be the introduction. You need to state the purpose. Then you have the current situation or some background info. Explain the problem or the need. Then give recommendations, give specific suggestions. Justification, expected benefits, explain why they would work. And conclusion, summarize and encourage action. Obviously, I repeat again, do not add anything new in the conclusion that you have not mentioned here, okay? Under any circumstances, right? You will lose a lot of marks. And if you are at work, you are going to confuse everyone, okay? Never mention anything here that you did not mention here previously. However, the middle sections should always be adapted to the exact question. Yes, obviously. Okay. Cole, the infrastructure of the local area could be enhanced should the proposed changes be implemented. Perfect. Awesome. Good job. So 15. So for C1, we have a little upgrade here. We're going to go beyond using should. Okay, we're going to move beyond using should. So instead of the college should improve the library, right? So this is going to be This is going to be like, this is like level B1, honestly. Try. Priority should be given to. Priority should be given to improving the library with ing. Yeah. There is a strong case for upgrading the existing library facilities. One measure worthy of consideration would be the refurbishment of the library. The college would benefit considerably from investing in improved library facilities. Were additional funding to become available, extending the library should be regarded as a priority. So this ability to express the same communicative function through different grammatical structures is exactly what helps demonstrate range at C1. And range is what gets you more marks. Cool. Furthermore, ignoring the changes to the local area could be detrimental to residents and wildlife. Awesome. Well done. Now, here's a little checklist for if you're doing the exam or if you're just preparing a proposal, okay? So before finishing, obviously ask, have I answered every part of the question? Again, this is me banging my head against the wall because I accept it now. It doesn't matter how many times I mention this to my students because they are going to forget parts of the question, you know? So I don't know. I will say it in case it like hits home for any of you. I mean, the best way to lose marks is to forget to answer part of the question. Okay, this is the best way to lose marks. Okay, cool. Awesome. It's okay. Is my target reader clear? Is my register appropriate? Register, remember guys, is how formal you are. Have I included a title and useful language, useful headings? Have I explained the purpose of the introduction? Have I made specific recommendations? Have I justified those recommendations? Have I explained their likely benefit or consequences? Have I used a range of recommendation structures rather than repeating should? Have I used cohesive devices naturally? Have I demonstrated a range of C1 vocabulary and grammar? Is my conclusion persuasive? Okay, the conclusion must be persuasive. Am I within the required word limit? This also applies to meetings at work, guys, because if your boss tells you, okay, Vikki, you have 15 minutes to speak, you know, then I should not speak for 25 minutes. Again, everybody will be crazy. And it doesn't look professional. If you're given a word limit or a time limit, you need to stick to that 100%. You know, the student to remember is, I'll get you to, I would remember is. Problem, so, formula I would remember is. Problem or need, right? You need the recommendation, the reason, and the expected result. Okay? Now, I have got down here, I think fine, I can't believe, I think I've made it to my examples. Yes. Okay. So guys, I prepared some examples if you would like to check the examples, okay? First, we're going to read the question. So this is about, what have I done first? I've mentioned first some top themes that come up for proposals. So one is television programs about your region. Okay, they will ask you to do something, create something about your region, your area. For example, a television station is planning a series of documentary programs about life in your region and is inviting proposals from members of the public. Write a proposal suggesting ideas for programs which would appeal to both local residents and to people unfamiliar with the reason. Give reasons for your suggestions and explain why the programs would be interesting to the wider audience. Write your proposal. Okay, so this is one example. Yes, I've done here my example. Okay, so first I've got my title. It's really easy. Proposal for a documentary series about the reason. Proposal for a documentary series about the reason. Then I start off introduction. Always the same. Always the same. Again, the purpose of this proposal is always the same. Okay? To suggest 2 programs which could form part of a documentary series about life in the region. In order to appeal to both local residents and a wider audience, I would strongly recommend focusing on aspects of the area which are culturally distinctive while also addressing issues of broader interest. Okay, so I'm basically literally repeating everything that I have here in my question. Change the words, change up the structure, and I just mentioned all of this in my introduction. Okay, and there's no surprises in a report. Okay, no funny haha. It's very black and white, very direct, very clear so that everybody knows what you're talking about. Second point, life between 2 countries. One suggestion would be to produce a program exploring everyday life along the Spanish-Portuguese border. Particular attention could be paid to the ways in which residents regularly cross the border for work, shopping, leisure, and social activities. Yoga class for Vikki. As well as the cultural similarities and differences between the 2 communities. The main advantage of this topic is that local residents would immediately recognise the experiences portrayed. At the same time, viewers elsewhere might be surprised by how little importance an international border can have in people's daily lives. This would have the added benefit of raising questions about identity, language, and European integration, thereby giving the programme relevance beyond the region itself. A landscape shaped by tradition. A second programme could focus on the relationship between the local population and the natural environment. It could feature traditional industries, rural communities, and the ways in which people have adapted to the region's climate and landscape over generations. Okay, Zazu, awesome. Cool. Yeah. It's on YT, Zazu. Everything is just English with Vikki on YT. It's all there. There's a playlist for C1, and this will be in the playlist for writing for C1. You can find it there, and the notes. While such a documentary would inevitably celebrate local traditions, it should also examine how these are changing. Issues such as sustainable tourism, environmental protection, and the decline of traditional ways of life could take centre stage. By doing so, the programme would avoid becoming merely promotional and would instead provide a balanced portrayal of the challenges facing the region. Conclusion. Taking all these factors into consideration, I believe these 2 programmes would provide an engaging combination of local culture and universally relevant themes. If these recommendations were implemented, the series could appeal to residents while simultaneously introducing a wider audience to a region they may know very little about. Okay, cool. So there's your example, guys. Now, I'm going to leave that there for today with the proposals. Okay, it's a lot of information. I wanted to go through it quickly because I want to send it also to my students so that they can use it to review. And I'm going to put it on YT. It's English with Vikki if you want to follow on YT. And then you're going to be able to see the notes. Okay, and I know this was a lot of information, but you can go back and you can check it out on the YT video. Okay? Mr. Foster, so do you teach yoga or do you just take part in group classes? I'm a qualified yoga teacher also, Mr. Foster. And I have taught yoga classes, yes. But I don't teach regular yoga classes, no. Okay? Cool. So we'll leave that there. We've done an hour and a half now. I think that's maybe that's enough. It's 9 o'clock tonight. But I have got I've got a lot of stuff here. I won't scroll down. I've got too many things prepared for the weekend. Okay? I've got some nice speakings prepared as well, guys. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to finish proposals maybe tomorrow, I hope. And then maybe we'll do a bit of speaking. Okay, I'll see as well this weekend if I can upload some new videos. I still have one in my drafts. Okay? Awesome, guys. So great to have you, and we'll see each other tomorrow. Okay? I hope you all